Logistics and medical readiness are non-negotiable. A dedicated logistics manager negotiates stadium access, hotel security, and cross-border travel paperwork. The medical team establishes individual rehabilitation plans, concussion protocols, and return-to-play criteria tied to objective metrics. Sports science staff use GPS tracking, heart rate variability, sleep monitoring, and blood markers to manage loads and prevent overuse injuries. Recovery protocols combine cold water immersion, targeted nutrition, compression, and scheduled rest days. These are integrated into the microcycle so that recovery does not become an afterthought during a packed tournament window. Roles inside the delegation must be precise and mutually understood. The head coach defines the overarching tactical identity and matchday lineups. Assistant coaches handle position-specific drills and in-game adjustments. The physical trainer maps weekly periodization and oversees conditioning. Analysts produce opposition dossiers and set-piece tendencies, feeding the coach actionable clips and statistical profiles. The captain is tasked with bridging the coach's instructions and on-field enforcement of discipline. Goalkeepers work with a specialized coach to synchronize distribution and defensive organization. Clear role delineation prevents overlap and ensures accountability. Five-time world champions Brazil head into 2026 with a changed playing field, more teams, heavier club calendars, and rivals who have learned to neutralize flair. Under the floodlights and inside data-driven labs, coaches, sports scientists, veterans, and teenagers are being pushed to prove compatibility. Can Samba creativity be married to intense pressing, and can aging stars survive the schedule? The coach sketches the system, the captain steadies the locker room, medical and performance teams manage recovery, scouts and clubs fight over access. Each role is clear, and each mismatch is a real risk. Watch to see the hard trade-offs, the selection battles, and the concrete vulnerabilities that will decide whether Brazil's style still conquers the world. FIFA World Cup 2026. The tournament will be staged across 3 North American nations and features an expanded field of 48 teams, which changes the balance between preparation time, match congestion, and scouting demands. Brazil's staff must plan for wider travel distances, varied climates, and multiple types of playing surfaces, while also accounting for the altered tournament format that increases the importance of squad depth. Many of the team's players are based in Europe and other continents, so arranging warm-up fixtures in a coherent pre-tournament camp that minimizes jet lag and maximizes tactical work is a priority. Selection strategy centers on balancing established internationals with in-form newcomers from domestic leagues and abroad. The technical staff must evaluate not only technical ability, but also compatibility with the coach's tactical model, physical resilience under a compressed schedule, and mental readiness for intense media and fan scrutiny. Squad chemistry is critical. Short-term camps are useful but limited, so scouting reports and player interviews are used to assess temperament and role acceptance before final invitations are issued. Examples of practical steps include staging friendlies against teams with contrasting styles, high-pressing European sides, compact defensive teams, and athletic CONCACAF opponents to test tactical variability. Scouting and opponent profiling require intensified collaboration between video analysts, scouts based in host countries, and local contacts who can provide real-time intelligence on emerging threats. With an expanded tournament field comes unfamiliar opponents. The scouting network therefore emphasizes pattern recognition, how teams build attacks, press triggers, and defend set pieces, rather than relying solely on reputations. For example, detailed analysis of a compact low-block opponent would drive different personnel and training priorities than those used to counter a wide, pace-based side. Compatibility challenges deserve a critical eye. Tactics adopted at club level by key stars may clash with the national team's plan, creating friction and forcing the coach to choose between individual brilliance and system coherence.
Travel demands and club season burnout can reduce the availability or sharpness of vital players, and over-reliance on a few names increases vulnerability to injury or sudden form drops. Media pressure and external expectations also create psychological load that must be managed proactively by mental coaches and player leaders. Contingency planning makes the difference between a smooth campaign and a crisis. Backup plans include alternate training sites, a prioritized injury replacement list with profiles of ready-to-call players, and flexible tactical templates that allow rotation without collapse. Communication protocols with clubs, establishing expected preparation windows and medical transparency help reduce surprise absences. In short, the preparation program combines meticulous logistics, clear staff roles, rigorous sports science, and honest assessment of tactical and personnel compatibility to meet the unique demands of this expanded multi-nation tournament.
Vinicius-Rodrigo. Vinicius Jr. is Brazil's primary wide attacker, a left-footed winger who specializes in high-speed dribbling and destabilizing fullbacks by attacking the inside channel. Coaches preparing the national team emphasize his ability to carry the ball into the final third and draw multiple defenders, which creates numerical advantages for teammates. In practical terms, this means training drills that replicate 1v1 overloads on the left, coordinated overlaps with left backs, and quick transition patterns where Vinicius receives the ball between lines and either drives at goal or lays it off to on-rushing midfielders. He also has clear defensive responsibilities. Team sessions focus on his pressing triggers and how his initial harrying can funnel opponents into designated pressing lanes. Endrick is a central striker profile signed by a top European club after emerging from Brazil's domestic scene. He brings a directness and forward mobility that can serve as a focal point in the attack. The coaching staff treats him as both a target and a decoy, designing exercises where he either holds the ball to allow midfield runners to arrive or makes angled and vertical runs to stretch central defenders and open channels for wide players. For example, trainers run coordinated passing sequences where Endrick attracts a center back and then immediately lays the ball off to a winger cutting inside. These patterns help convert his pace and body strength into concrete attacking options. Attention is also paid to his defensive contributions. Sprint recovery and positioning in set-piece defense are repeatedly drilled because a striker's defensive lapses can expose the backline in transition.
Rodrigo offers a complementary skill set, a forward who can occupy both half spaces and either flank depending on the tactical plan, and his movement is used to create interchanges rather than hold a fixed position. When he lines up on the right, he often stays wider to pin the opposition fullback or drifts into pockets between fullback and center back to finish chances created by left-sided overloads. Coaching sessions test his timing for diagonal runs and his ability to accept quick layoffs in tight areas. Specific finishing drills mimic low-driven cutbacks and first-time shots from the edge of the penalty area. Defensively, his work rate in pressing the opponent's left back and closing passing lanes is emphasized, since modern wide forwards must contribute to coordinated team pressing to be tactically viable. Assessing the three together requires a frank look at overlaps and potential redundancies. Vinicius and Rodrigo can both prefer to invert into half spaces, which raises the real question of how to maintain width on the flank if both drift centrally. Solutions include instructing one winger to stay wider at certain phases, or relying on fullback overlap rotations. Endrick's tendency to occupy central defenders can free space for the wingers, but only if his movements are timed to avoid clogging the same channel as a drifting Rodrigo. In practice, coaches run simulated match segments where Vinicius attacks down the left while Rodrigo delays his inward move by a beat, allowing Endrick to occupy one center back and create room for a late-arriving teammate. The staff is careful not to assume automatic chemistry. Patterns are tested repeatedly, mistakes logged, and alternative setups prepared if overlapping tendencies cause the team to become narrow or expose the flanks.
There are concrete risks that cannot be brushed aside.
Endrick's relative youth and limited international minutes mean the margin for error in high-pressure World Cup qualifiers is smaller. Building reliability under fatigue is a priority. Vinicius can sometimes be inconsistent in final decision-making, so rehearsed patterns that reduce the need for individual improvisation are used to mitigate that. Rodrigo's best value may be as a complementary piece rather than an identical profile replacement, and selecting him in a two-wide system or as a super sub who exploits tired defenses might be more pragmatic. In short, the coaching approach is to define clear role templates for each player, test those templates in varied match-like scenarios, and have contingency plans that address the specific overlap and space management issues this trio creates. Coach Carlo Ancelotti's decisions. Carlo Ancelotti arrives with a well-documented record, multiple Champions League titles and domestic trophies across Europe's top leagues, plus a reputation for tactical flexibility and calm man management. He's known to adapt formations to his players rather than forcing a singular system, often switching between variants of a four-man backline and midfield shapes that prioritize balance. At club level, he's shown a tendency to protect key attackers with structure while still allowing them creative freedom within clear positional rules. The way he managed wingers at his current club, giving them license to take risks but expecting predictable defensive contributions, is a concrete example of that trade-off.
When it comes to squad selection and rotation, Ancelotti favors clarity of roles and trust in senior figures, not blanket experimentation. He delegates heavily to a compact backroom team, relying on specialist coaches and analysts to translate his broad concepts into training tasks. This creates efficiency. It can also create bottlenecks if communication with national team staff or club coaches is not synchronized. Compatibility must be assessed critically. A national setup with compressed windows and limited time for training will strain any manager who relies on nuanced, role-specific coaching delivered over days rather than hours. Tactical decisions under his leadership would likely stress balance between defensive salinity and transitional speed, with distinct responsibilities assigned to fullbacks, a stabilizing midfield pivot, and creative attackers given defined channels to exploit. Expect explicit role definitions: who presses first, who covers the half spaces, who drops to form a temporary back three on transitions. Those assignments reduce ambiguity for players. However, such clarity can suppress improvisation from naturally free-roaming talents unless Ancelotti consciously carves out exceptions and communicates those exceptions consistently. Risks are real and should not be downplayed. Integrating an abundance of creative, club-based stars into a single national team demands tough decisions about minutes and hierarchy. Ancelotti's preference for experience could slow the rise of young prospects, and his measured tempo might not suit a squad built around spontaneous dribblers unless adjustments are made. Practically, he would need to outline precise roles for his assistants, the fitness and medical staff, the data analysts who monitor load across club schedules, and the team captain who acts as his on-field extension. Failing that, tactical coherence and player buy-in will suffer. The Brazil 2026 World Cup squad includes 25 players, including, for a 25-player roster, practical composition usually begins with 3 goalkeepers, ensuring coverage for injury or suspension while allowing the coaching staff flexibility in training and rotation. A first-choice goalkeeper who commands the penalty area and organizes the back line is essential, but so is a reliable backup who can maintain distribution under pressure. Teams that bring a goalkeeper comfortable with short, progressive passing reduce the need for midfielders to drop deep. Coaches commonly pair one sweeper keeper type with an orthodox shot stopper among the backups to cover contrasting game scenarios. Defensive depth commonly occupies 8 to 9 spots, mixing central defenders who excel in aerial duels and physical marking with at least one left-footed center back for balance on the left-hand side of build-up. Fullbacks or wingbacks must be assessed not only for their crossing and overlapping runs, but also for their recovery speed and tactical discipline. Selecting two attack-minded right backs without a defensively minded alternative creates vulnerability against quick counters. Compatibility is critical here. Two center backs who both prefer stepping out of the line to press can leave gaps if not paired with a conservative partner who reads the space and covers behind. Midfield selection usually requires a deliberate spectrum of roles: a dedicated defensive midfielder to screen the defense, a deep-lying playmaker to orchestrate transitions, box-to-box options to shuttle energy between phases, and at least one advanced creator who can unlock tight defenses. Pick too many creative midfielders who occupy similar zones, and the team risks lacking ball recovery and tempo control. Conversely, an overemphasis on physicality at the expense of technical playmaking limits the ability to break structured low blocks. Examples of functional balance include pairing a disciplined pivot tasked with tackles, interceptions, and simple outlet passes with a more adventurous number 8 who can carry the ball forward and arrive late in the box.
Forward choices must reflect tactical intent: a central target striker to hold up play and bring others into attack, a mobile false 9 to pull defenders out of position, and wide forwards capable of cutting inside or maintaining width. Depth matters. Having 3 different profiles among the attacking 5 helps switch attacking patterns mid-game. Set-piece specialists and reliable penalty takers should be explicitly identified before the tournament. Their presence can swing tight knockout matches. Finally, assess squad chemistry realistically. Selecting multiple players from the same club can accelerate cohesion, but identical stylistic profiles from the same system increase systemic risk if opponents neutralize that particular approach. Goalkeepers: Bento, Al Nassr; John, Nottingham Forest; Ederson, Fenerbahce. Given the roster labels Bento, Al Nassr, John, Nottingham Forest, and Ederson, Fenerbahce, Brazil's goalkeeping group on paper covers a useful spread of technical profiles and tactical options. Each name brings different demands for the coaching staff in terms of training emphasis, match preparation, and situational deployment. For realistic planning, treat these as distinct archetypes rather than interchangeable choices, and prepare for friction points where stylistic differences meet the manager's chosen system. Bento should be evaluated first for his command of the penalty area in shot stopping under concentrated threat. If he is stronger in reflex saves in 1v1 situations, he becomes a natural starter when the team expects to face direct attacks, crosses into the box, or opposition set-piece dominance. That role requires targeted work, repeated high ball collection against taller forwards, combination drills with the central defenders to practice timing and body positioning on corners, and short burst reaction sessions to sharpen low to high recovery saves. However, if Bento lacks confidence playing out from the back or is hesitant when leaving his line to clear through balls, those deficiencies will clash with any plan that relies on building possession from the goalkeeper. This is a significant compatibility risk. Possession-heavy tactics demand sweep and distribute comfort that not all shot stoppers possess.
John offers a different set of trade-offs and can function as a transitional option between the other two keepers. He may be useful when the opposition presses aggressively and the team needs a keeper who is steady under counterattacks and calm in organizing the backline. In practice, that necessitates strong communication drills with fullbacks and centerbacks, scenario work focusing on rapid defensive shape recovery after lost possession, and simulated counterpress situations where quick decisions, smother, hold, or pass, are rehearsed. On the negative side, if John's distribution range is limited or inaccurate at distance, then selecting him for matches where the team must exploit fast, long switches will be suboptimal. The staff must therefore quantify his passing range and error profile in training before committing him to a tactical plan that demands high-quality, long-range goal kicks or midfield launching passes. Ederson is widely associated with elite distribution and a sweeper-keeper profile. He's the option that most readily enables a high line and ball-playing build.
That style opens tactical possibilities: short, confident chains from back to midfield, asymmetric overloads on the flanks, and the ability to break pressing lines with precise long passes. To leverage this, the coaching program should include progressive passing circuits that integrate goalkeeping into team possession drills, timed sweeper runs against simulated through balls, and pressure resilience exercises where the keeper must make split-second choices under a high press. But there is a critical caveat. When a keeper is selected primarily for distribution, defensive vulnerabilities can appear if backline cohesion falters. Miscommunication on offside traps or mistimed sweeper exits can lead to high-cost errors. The staff must therefore synchronize Ederson's sweeping instincts with concrete defensive triggers to avoid systemic risk. Across match planning and squad rotation, a pragmatic, critical approach works best. Use Bento in fixtures where aerial threat and reflex saves dominate the risk profile. Deploy John when structural solidity and straightforward risk management are priorities. And favor Ederson in matches where control of possession and breaking the press will decide outcomes. Rotate deliberately to preserve match sharpness, but avoid changing the keeper on a whim, since goalkeeper chemistry with defenders is sensitive and can erode quickly. Specific mitigation measures include paired defender-keeper training blocks, video sessions that focus on decision patterns rather than abstract praise, and simulated opponent profiles so each keeper practices against the kinds of shots, crosses, and pressing schemes they will face. Finally, concrete monitoring and corrective steps are essential. Track measurable outcomes in training: successful high ball claims per session, pass completion under pressure from the back, recovery speed after a conceded goal, and the frequency of risky sweeper interventions that require recovery. Use scenario-based testing, set plays with overloaded boxes, 11v11 high press phases, and isolated 1v1 counters to expose compatibility issues before match day. Be candid about weaknesses and avoid optimistic assumptions that a keeper's club reputation alone guarantees fit. Rigorous, situation-specific evidence should drive selection and tactical alignment. Defenders: Henrique, Monaco; Marquinhos, PSG; Militao, Real Madrid; Wesley, Roma. Coaches are working with a core defensive quartet sourced from top European teams: Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid, Monaco, and Roma. And that reality shapes both expectations and limitations. Marquinhos arrives with a reputation as a steady organizer and primary communicator in front of goal, while Militao brings explosive recovery speed and progressive carrying out of the back. Henrique and Wesley supply depth and slightly different profiles because their club minutes and tactical environments at Monaco and Roma have exposed them to distinct defensive responsibilities. Those basic facts frame how the staff can distribute roles and minutes. Marquinhos is best deployed as the anchor who controls the line and manages shifts between man and zonal marking. He reads forward passes well and tends to be the point of aid when the fullbacks are caught high. Use him to dictate the defensive shape in transitional moments. Militao complements that by stepping into the half space, making forward recoveries, and offering a more aggressive channel for ball progression. He tends to thrive when permitted to step up and carry the ball into midfield rather than being static. Henrique is useful as a more conventional central defender option who can be relied upon for positional maintenance and set-piece marking, providing balance when the team needs to prioritize defensive solidity. Wesley gives the coach an option for handling isolated wide duels or opponents who play direct, because his club role at Roma has involved dealing frequently with crosses and second balls. Compatibility is not automatic; it requires honest management. Two ball-playing defenders on the same flank can leave gaps if the midfield does not compact quickly enough, and both Marquinhos and Militao prefer to influence play higher up the pitch. Therefore, pairing decisions must account for opponent's style. Against possession teams, pairing Marquinhos with Henrique or Wesley stabilizes the backline and reduces risky stepping. Conversely, when Brazil must counter or break press lines, Militão's carrying ability, paired with Marquinhos' organizational skill, offers a better transitional balance. Coaches should also be wary of overlap in roles. If Henrique and Wesley are both selected without a true left-sided outlet passer, distribution under pressure can become predictable.
Practical sessions should reflect these realities. Run shape drills that force Marquinhos to cover for Militão's forward runs and vice versa, so communication becomes instinctive. Simulate opponent scenarios where Enrique has to hold a deeper line while Marquinhos advances to press, and practice quick switches to prevent overloads on the flank. Train specific set-piece matchups, identify which of the four will follow tall strikers and which will defend zonal spaces, and rehearse those assignments until they are automatic. Finally, plan rotation and recovery. Club workloads vary significantly, so individualized fitness monitoring and staggered minutes in friendlies will keep the group competitive without risking cohesion loss. Midfielders: Casemiro, Manchester United; Guimarães, Newcastle; Fabinho, Al Ittihad; Santos, Chelsea; and Lucas Paquetá, West Ham. Brazil's midfield group for these preparations brings together a mix of ball winners, progressive ball carriers, and creative operators. Casemiro, Manchester United; Bruno Guimarães, Newcastle; Fabinho, Al Ittihad; Santos, Chelsea; and Lucas Paquetá, West Ham. Santos, Chelsea, is listed as part of this pool and should be evaluated in camp for whether he is best deployed inside as a mobile 8 or pushed wider to free one of the central creators. Casemiro's defining traits are positional discipline and a fast, decisive tackle that shields the backline while offering direct passes out of pressure. Bruno Guimarães is comfortable carrying the ball forward, threading vertical passes, and linking defense to attack with composure under press. Fabinho adds a similar defensive intelligence to Casemiro, but tends to sit deeper and read danger to cut passing lanes. Paquetá is the clearest creative outlet of the five, with a knack for finding pockets between the lines, late runs into the box, and set-piece delivery. Santos, Chelsea, is listed as part of this pool and should be evaluated in camp for whether he is best deployed inside as a mobile 8 or pushed wider to free one of the central creators.
A critical look at compatibility is necessary because strengths overlap. Two natural anchors in Casemiro and Fabinho can create redundancy if both start in the same lineup. A double pivot of those two risks blunting the team's forward momentum unless the system deliberately sacrifices tempo for defensive certainty. On the other hand, pairing Casemiro with Bruno Guimarães presents a clearer balance. Casemiro sits to protect the back line, while Guimarães steps into channels to progress the ball and support transitions. If the coach prefers a 4-3-3 that presses and moves quickly, Casemiro plus Guimarães with Paquetá as the attacking eighth provides structural breadth without becoming one-dimensional. Conversely, using Fabinho alongside Casemiro would be a pragmatic, conservative choice against elite counterattacking opponents, but it demands extreme discipline from the more creative players to generate chances. Specific match tasks and examples highlight how these five should be rotated and matched. Against high-block, possession-heavy opponents, the team needs Guimarães' progressive passing and Paquetá's ability to pull defenders out of position. Casemiro then becomes the pivot who recycles possession and prevents dangerous turnovers. Versus direct, transition-oriented teams, relying on Fabinho's positional reads and Casemiro's tackling gives the backline space and time, while Paquetá must bluff runs and exploit set-piece moments to provide offensive outlets. During training, drills should simulate quick positional swaps, Casemiro dropping between center backs, Guimarães pushing into half spaces, Paquetá roaming into the left channel, so that in-game substitutions don't disrupt balance. Santos's role needs concrete clarification and practice. If he is more of an energetic box-to-box 8, he can interchange with Guimarães. If he's a calmer circulation type, he slots better alongside Casemiro, not in place of Paquetá. Camp management must also address load, mental roles, and vulnerability points.
Fabinho's recent club environment and travel demands could affect sharpness. Monitoring minutes and recovery is not optional. Casemiro brings leadership and a calming presence in midfield, but relying on him to cover every lapse masks systemic flaws rather than fixing them. Paquetá can unlock defenses with individual brilliance, yet he is not a one-man solution and will struggle if isolated by a conservative double pivot. Chemistry work should prioritize communication and transition, defining who presses first, who covers the third man, and how the team recovers after a turnover. Practical measures include small-sided games that reward vertical progression from a single pivot and set-piece patterns where Paquetá's delivery is complemented by Casemiro's aerial threat. Simple, testable adjustments that clarify roles without creating tactical congestion. Forwards: Vinicius, Real Madrid; Esteban, Chelsea; Rodrigo, Real Madrid; Cunha, Manchester United. Brazil's front line combines pace on the flanks with a nominal center forward, and that mix will determine how the team balances possession control and direct transition attacks. Vinicius at Real Madrid is the archetype of a left-sided dribbler who regularly beats fullbacks one-on-one and looks to cut inside or draw fouls in advanced positions. Rodrigo, also from Real Madrid, brings composure in tight spaces and an ability to rotate between a wide role and a more central support position. Cunha, listed here with Manchester United, functions as the contact point who can occupy center backs, hold the ball up, and make the vertical runs that create channels for wide attackers. Esteban at Chelsea is the more unpredictable option. His pace and directness make him useful as an impact substitute or for stretching defenses, but his lack of senior international seasoning limits reliability in high-pressure moments.
Tactical compatibility is not automatic. Vinicius and Rodrigo have complementary club-level chemistry, which helps when they start together, yet both prefer to receive the ball in high half-space zones. Without careful role definition, they can congest the same operating areas. Cunha's presence as a runner and target can alleviate that if he times his movement to pull a central defender wide or occupy a deep marker, but that requires disciplined midfield support to feed him into those pockets. Esteban's primary value is vertical pace and unpredictability. He can destabilize tired defenses, but relying on him for sustained build-up phases is risky because he has fewer proven patterns at elite international tempo. In practical formations, a 4-3-3 looks straightforward on paper. Vinicius left, Rodrigo right, Cunha through the middle. In that setup, Vinicius's take-ons force fullbacks to step up, creating gaps between fullback and center back that Cunha can exploit with diagonal runs. Rodrigo's tendency to drift inward can either complement this by occupying the half space vacated by a drifting fullback, or it can duplicate Vinicius's movement in blunt width if the team does not rotate effectively. If Brazil opts for a 4-2-3-1 or a fluid front two, Rodrigo can tuck in to play off Cunha, while Esteban offers the counter-attacking outlet on the opposite flank. But such fluidity increases the need for clearly defined defensive pressing triggers, so cover is not sacrificed. Coaching decisions must be blunt about trade-offs. Start Vinicius for guaranteed wide thread and rhythm. Pair him with Rodrigo when creative combinations are needed, but avoid starting all four if the plan relies on rigid wingback cover. Rotations and substitutions will be necessary to maintain balance. Use Cunha when a proper target and aerial presence are required, especially against deep block defenses, and bring Esteban on when space opens or to inject pace against tiring fullbacks. Finally, realistic contingency planning matters. Managers should prepare set-piece routines that leverage Cunha's physicality, transitional patterns that exploit Vinicius's 1v1 strengths, and simplified roles for Esteban so his energy becomes an asset rather than a source of structural confusion.
National Team Coach Carlo Ancelotti. Carlo Ancelotti has a distinguished record at club level, including 4 UEFA Champions League titles and long spells managing elite squads at clubs such as AC Milan, Chelsea, and Real Madrid. He is widely recognized for calm man management, tactical adaptability, and the ability to balance multiple stars in a single squad. He communicates comfortably in Italian,
English, and Spanish, which helps with multilingual dressing rooms and international media environments. A critical look at compatibility with Brazil starts with strengths. His track record of integrating high-profile attackers into coherent systems suggests he could manage Brazil's abundance of individual talent without forcing stylistic change on players. For example, at Real Madrid, he organized a front line of distinct personalities around a clear collective plan. At AC Milan, he built systems that allowed a deep-lying playmaker to control tempo while forwards exploited space. Those are practical precedents for using Brazil's creative midfielders and dynamic wingers effectively. But compatibility is not automatic. Ancelotti's preference for measured build-up and tactical balance can clash with the faster, high-intensity attacking patterns many expect from a Brazilian side. He has sometimes been criticized for conservative in-game adjustments under pressure and for not enforcing an aggressive pressing ethic that could leave Brazil short on the relentless forward momentum that both fans and some players prize. Roles and responsibilities would need to be spelled out precisely. As head coach in a national setup, he would have to prioritize clear, repeatable principles that can be taught in limited international windows. Defensive shape, transition triggers, set-piece routines, and basic offensive patterns. His role would include defining a primary system plus 2 workable variants, selecting staff, assistant coaches, a head scout, fitness and recovery specialists, and a set-piece coach, and establishing protocols with clubs for player workload and injury prevention. Ancelotti's known strength in man management means he would be expected to mediate superstar dynamics, but he would still need strong delegation, an energetic defensive or pressing coach, for instance, to cover aspects that are not his hallmark.
Practical examples of implementation point to hybrid solutions rather than wholesale cultural shifts. A working plan might use a core 4-3-3 that allows fullbacks to provide width, while a compact midfield controls transitions. Alternately, a 4-2-3-1 could protect the backline while freeing a creative number 10 to link play. Training in camps would emphasize compressed, game-like sequences, rapid transition drills, set-piece rehearsals, and opponent-specific pressing triggers that players can memorize and execute with minimal rehearsal time. Concrete contingencies are also necessary. If club release windows and player fatigue limit preparation, the coaching team should scale tactical complexity down and focus on shape and set plays. If fan expectation demands more attacking verve, the staff should present measurable short-term metrics, press distance, chance creation from fullbacks, expected goals per game, to show progress without overstating immediate results. Overall, appointing a coach with Ancelotti's profile would offer clear managerial strengths, but also require deliberate adjustments to national team rhythms and Brazilian football culture. Success would depend less on reputation and more on pragmatic staffing choices, compact tactical prescriptions suited to short camps, and transparent club-federation coordination. Realistic planning, honest assessment of breach points like pressing intensity and training time, and a willingness to hire complementary specialists would be essential to align his methods with the specific demands and identity of the Brazil national team. From intensive training and tactical adjustments to sports science checks and squad rotations, we've seen the essential components: physical preparation, formation experiments, scouting depth, and logistical planning. Crucially, all of these elements aren't yet perfectly aligned. The combination of the speed of young wide players with aging central defense, the high pressing demands of players with long club seasons, and the selection of a midfield pairing capable of both creating and defending remain unresolved compatibility issues. The coach is the architect, shaping the identity and squad. The captain and experienced players maintain order in the dressing room. Young talent brings dynamism. Medical and sporting staff monitor playing time and injuries. Analytics and scouting develop match plans. None of these roles guarantees overnight cohesion. Time, playing time together, and challenging friendlies will determine whether the puzzle will come together. If you felt a thrill during these preparations, you're part of this journey.
Share your thoughts below and subscribe to stay up to date with what's coming next. Stay tuned. Brazil's journey to 2026 is beginning, and the next chapter could